Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spanish Leaving Cert 2022. Today, we're going to talk about exam tips and predictions at ExamRevision.ie. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the exam that's coming up. And I'm going to give you some tips and some predictions that may come up in the exam 2022. Okay, so we're going to concentrate mainly in exam technique. We're going to concentrate mainly in exam technique, how we're going to structure your answers. We're going to have a look at the breakdown of the Spanish paper. We're going to talk a little bit about the timing of the exam, and we talk a little bit about predictions, things that will come up in the exam. Okay, I would like to mention to start with the changes for the 2022 exam, okay, for higher level. What we will have to remember is that there will be no change in the listening, okay, but the written paper and the reading paper has a few changes. Let's start with section A. In the section A, the prescribed literature and journalistic is remain unchanged. In section A, the question 2, instead of answering both parts A and B, this year you will only be required to answer only one. So basically, out of the two short comprehensions, you only have to answer one. If I were you, what I would do is, because you will have plenty of time in the exam, timing will not be an issue this year, I will attempt both. And if both attempted, the examiners will correct both of them and give you marked for the one that you score the highest. So then this will be marked out of 10 instead of out of 20. Okay, so section A will be out of 60 marks. And section B is unchanged. Okay, the section will be marked out of 100. What we will probably have will be 3 titles for the opinion piece, so you will have more choice. So that's 100 marks. Section C, the candidates will, here is the big change of the whole paper. You will only have to do one of the dialogue, the formal letter, the diary entry, or the note. All of them would carry equal marks, which are going to be 25 marks. Instead of the 50 the total in place on a normal year. So my advice is concentrate mainly in the diary entry or the note, which are the easy ones, especially the diary entry, and still attempt the diary entry and the note and the dialogue, but do them in that order. So as a result of all these changes, the higher level written paper in 22 will be marked out of 185 instead of 220 previous years. Okay. So these would be the instructions to candidates and how they will come up in the exam. So this is for the short comprehensions, A or B. This is the same. This is the same, and here one or the other one, or the other one, or the note. Answer one of them. Okay, so it's very important to have the structure of the exam clear. Okay, so this is basically a summary of the written paper. Out of total marks, 185. Okay. So my advice for the exam is that you revise the grammar very well. The grammar is the basics for anything in the exam, really. Why is it useful? You need to have your grammar spot on for the opinion piece. The sentences in the opinion piece have to make sense in order to score highly. And not only that, you cannot include everything in the present tense. You have to show a variety of tenses. So you should attempt at least include 5 different tenses to the opinion piece. So a basic grammar revision is essential. It's also important for the dialogue. For the dialogue, the grammar has to be perfect in order to award most of the marks. Only with the vocabulary that will not be enough. The same with the formal letter, diary entry, and the note. And you will need the grammar in order to identify synonyms in the comprehensions. Of course, synonyms that are related to the verbs. Okay, so if I were you, I would revise. I would put all the endings in a piece of paper. I would put past, present, and future, present continuous, imperfect, subjunctive, and have them all together handy on the same page so you would know all the endings, and it will help you to have a clear idea of the grammar required in the exam. Okay, so mainly my predictions are, without any doubt, the past, the present, and the future will be asked in all of them. In the opinion piece, you will have more freedom. You will be able to include 5 tenses, but for the other ones, no doubt that they will always check the past and the present, or the present and the future, or they make reference to something in the past and in the future. So make sure you know all the endings very well for the tenses, and as well the irregular verbs. Okay. So one of the sections that carries 50 marks, an awful lot of marks, is the essay writing, which is in the written expression. Okay. So this is after the comprehension. So you will have to write an opinion, a piece, an essay, will be awarded 50 marks, and you're likely to be given 3 titles. The first title will be directly linked to the text, and the other ones would be more open, so you'll have more freedom to write about. Okay, what's the marking scheme? You always have to take into account that 25 marks go for language and 25 go for content. What's that about? You need to include, in order to do well in the exam, higher level vocabulary and a variety of tenses. And you also have to avoid repetition, and you have to use synonyms, words with the same meaning. That's how you score highly in the language. Content, what you're actually saying doesn't make sense. Your ideas are organized, you have a structure, you offer a solution, you offer your opinion in your essay, then you will score highly. And both of them are combined. You cannot score low in one and high in the other ones. You get 25, 25, 10 and 11, 14, 13, and so on. You will have to write, you'll be asked to write between 80 and 150 words. But my advice, and what you will have to do in the exam, always attempt for 150 words. Students write an average of 10 words per line. So that's 3/4 of the page, 15 lines. It's not an awful lot, but remember, you have to try to score high in language and in content. My predictions for the essay are the following one. They always like to include things about young people. Problems young people have in society, problems like not having jobs, being unemployed, and going to another country. Peer pressure, exams, the environment. Nowadays, young people worry a lot about the environment. Young people are the ones that know about the internet, advantages, disadvantages of the internet, working and studying from home. That's a big one, working and studying from home, especially after the pandemic and the lockdown and doing online learning and all that. That's something that could come up very easily. What are the advantages, disadvantages of working and studying from home? Distractions and so on. Healthy living, eating well, the importance of doing sports. That's another important topic. We were in lockdown for a long time, and some people were not doing sports, and some people were eating junk food and so on. So the importance of doing sport, have a healthy lifestyle. And a topic that also comes up a lot, and could easily come up this year, are social problems in general, problems in society in Ireland, drugs, alcohol, homelessness, basically everyday problems that we have in our society. So how would I score highly in an essay? You need to do a very well organized essay. My advice is that you include 4 paragraphs. In the first paragraphs, you write an intro saying if you agree and disagree with the title. You make a general statement. Nowadays, in our society, and you introduce the points. You only talk about the points that you're going to mention. In the paragraph 2, you will develop the first point taken from there, and I'm going to give an example. Maybe it would be a good idea, if it fits in, to do a personal example. In paragraph 3, you will develop a second point, which will be different from the first point. We have to avoid repetition, and you will include another example. If it fits in, you may include statistics, percentages, or another example. Or alternatively, you can put the examples the other way around. You can put the personal example in the second paragraph or the first paragraph. Whatever you think it makes sense and it flows. And in paragraph 4, you need to do a conclusion. You summarize your previous points, what you mentioned in paragraph 2 and 3, and you offer a solution if it's possible, if it's a problem, or you offer a suggestion. Who would give me solutions to any problem? So I could probably talk about parents and home, education through teachers and schools, and maybe the government through the politicians. You will try to include just one solution or one suggestion, because if you include more than one, the essay will likely to be too long. Okay, so my personal advice for a good essay, you need to have a clear structure, 4 well-defined paragraphs. Avoid repetition. Examples. Give me an example about yourself, in your house, in your area, in your school, in your community, in your town. Statistics, and always mention Ireland. Last year, 50% of Irish teenagers, Irish households, Irish schools, and so on. Include a variety of tenses. 5 tenses. Try to include a subjunctive in the shape of an if clause in the conclusion. Si fuera posible, si pudiera. Attempt higher level vocabulary. Avoid repetition. How to avoid repetition? By using synonyms, words with the same meaning. For example, you could use the verb comenzar, and a synonym would be empezar. So I have to avoid using the same word all the time. Okay, you should do at this stage spider diagrams for all the topics. My advice is that you do, in order to not run out of ideas of what to say the day of the exam, you put in the middle of the paragraph the main theme and get used to do a spider diagram with possible ideas that you could have or you could include in an essay. Problems of young people. What problems do they have with parents? Maybe problems with the chores, problems with the pocket money, problems with the school, problems with the teachers at the school young people have. Maybe they're too strict, they give a lot of homework. With the friends, peer pressure, pressure to drink and smoke and have drugs, and so on. So you should be able to do a spider diagram in order to prepare for the exam, in order to run out of ideas with all the possible topics that I mentioned earlier on. Okay, so this is just an example of what I've done for the 2021 essay, which was about volunteering. So this is the preparation advice. This is my advice, things you can do about the voluntarios. Te conecta con otros, te ayuda a hacer nuevos amigos, amplías tu red social y aumentas tus habilidades sociales, te aporta un gran valor a los demás, pero también a uno mismo, aprendes sobre la sociedad que te rodea, te sientes útil, creas lazos con tu comunidad y pone a prueba tus capacidades. So all these points would be one of those 2 paragraphs, middle paragraphs of an essay. Of course, we would have to develop that with examples and statistics and percentages that we could, of course, will make up as long as they're credible in our exam. So let's continue with another important section of the exam, which are the dialogues. So in the dialogues, this year will be 25 marks, 6 points, 5 marks each. Okay, and all the top 5 will be taken into account. Remember what I said, the grammar has to be correct for full marks, so I cannot emphasize enough how important the grammar is. attempt all the points. They will pick the top 5. It's always the same context. It's a conversation with the Spanish speakers. You are in the school, you're working in Spain, you're on holidays in Spain, and you find yourself in an everyday situation. Before you start doing any writing, I would like you to read the whole dialogue and especially read the Spanish that may give you clues. They try to say as little as possible, but sometimes they include clues or words that you are required to write them down. The most important thing, and my advice here, is to get your message across, and communication takes place. So if there's no way of saying, if you don't know how to say something, you have to think of an easier way of getting that message across. If you have a Spanish-speaking person with no English in front of you, what could you say in order they will get the message, they'll get what you're talking about? And as long as you say something and some communication takes place, you will get some marks. Okay, so this is the 2021 dialogue. So I could see clearly here that they are checking that if I know the past tense, you're going to, the future tense, present continuous, I am doing, present again, I want, I am here, my friends have gone, present perfect, I decided, past tense, I love, present tense, opinions, I would love, conditional, I'm looking forward, present tense, I would like, conditional. So as you can see, they try to include as many tenses as possible. So they're testing at all times if you know your grammar or not. So if I were you, I would learn the grammar very well, including the irregular verbs. Okay, so the diary entry is also worth 25 marks. As you can see, here you have 5 points and give you 5 marks each. So it's always in a context of being in Spain. In this case, for example, 21, you're doing a Spanish course in Valencia and you have to include the following points. So I can see straight away that here they are testing mainly the present tense with descriptions, giving details. Here give one detail about an excursion, a trip you went on. So this is going to be the preterite tense or past, and what your plans are for the rest of the summer. So that's going to be future tense. So here they are clearly testing past, present, and future. Why do I always encourage the students to do the diary entry? Because it has a lot of more freedom than not any others. For example, mention what your plans are for the rest of the summer. You can literally say anything as long as it's in the future. One detail about an excursion you went on. You can literally say you went anywhere and what you did. Describe one of your teachers. You can literally say anything. It's much more freedom in the diary entry. In the note, it's literally the same thing, but you have less freedom. They go more straight to the point, okay? So say here you leave a note in Spanish for Carmen, and here is what they are asking you. 5 points, 5 marks each. Okay, so you're going future tense. This is you're going future tense. You will be home. I will send pictures. So here, the note, they'll be asking mainly concentrating on the future tense. So if we don't know the future tense or we don't know it well, then we will not score highly in this section of the paper. Okay, the formal letter, I think, is the most difficult section from section, the most difficult part from section C. It's kind of like a mini essay because they give you the context. You're reading a Spanish newspaper or an article, and you have to write a formal letter to the editor of the newspapers, and you need to include 5 relevant points of here. And if you don't like these ones, you can create your own ones. But all of them have to be expanded and developed. So pretty much you have to do a mini paragraph with all of them. Okay, as you can see, if you don't like these points, you can include them. And they kind of include normal, for example, it's about present tense. So this is a little bit more specific. It's what I consider a mini essay. So this is, I would personally be less inclined to do this. But of course, if you have time, you're more than welcome. Bien. When we deal with the comprehensions, we have to take into account the comprehension technique. You always read the title. You always check the pictures, and you read the questions you're given in English to have a general idea of the comprehension. All that will give you clues, and it will help you to understand the context of the comprehension better. You need to look for similar words in English or keywords in English. You read the full sentence and try to include as much information as possible in the ones where you have to answer in English. There is some of them where you have to give synonyms, and you need to be careful on that one, because synonyms, you only have to include the equivalent. No more words, because you will be giving 0 marks. Now, after the exam is finished, you'll have a 10 minutes break, and in Spanish, we always do the listening last. You will have 7 questions. They are very random. It's very difficult to predict the listening. The only thing I can say is question 6 is always about the weather. So always around 10, 12 marks. So I encourage you to know the weather well. And question 7 is about culture, Spanish-speaking countries, Spanish royal family, or some even news, cultural news about Spain. It's 80 marks and it's 20% of the paper in higher level. You make sure you answer all the questions in English, absolutely everything. The questions are in English, answer in English. It's very tempting to hear it in Spanish and write it down in Spanish, but make sure you're writing in the answering in the right language. Before the audio starts, you have literally 2 minutes to go over the questions, highlight the keywords, and that way you will be ready for when they give the answer. You will have things like announcements, dialogues with Spanish celebrities, Spanish-speaking person, description of places, description of festivals and events that happen in Spain. You will listen 3 times. Some of them will have pauses in the middle. Never leave anything blank, always attempt. Write something that will make sense. And there is no way of predicting the listening, it's very random. But what I recommend you is be familiar with the Spanish culture, Spanish festival, and Spanish-speaking countries. Let's have a look at the time management of the exam. So the exam will start at 9:30 and will finish at 12. That's the written paper. After that, you'll have a 10 minutes break, and you will do at 12:10, you start the listening. At 12:50, the exam will be done. So my advice is that you spend 30 minutes in the journalistics or the literature, whatever you choose. Some of you, most of the students would have prepared the journalistic. So 30 minutes maximum in the journalistic. In the 2 short comprehensions, I would encourage to do both and will not take you more than 10 minutes. They are quite direct, straight to the point. They're short enough. Section B, which is kind of literally another text, same style as the journalistic, I would not spend more than 30 minutes, kind of the same as before. The essay, 30 minutes. In the essay, you have to plan your essay. You need to know what you're going to say, because if you start writing straight away, you will make mistakes, and that's when you will run out of ideas. You will not know what to say, and that's when you start repeating yourself. Plan it, and once you plan it, you write it down. 30 minutes is more than plenty. After that, you will do the dialogue or the formal letter. Should not take more than 10 minutes. Diary entry or note, maximum that will take you 10 minutes, if not 5. Once you finish, you will have 10 minutes to go over the whole paper. Make sure you didn't include any extra. Make sure if you can expand your answers, you're answering all the questions correctly, and that will take you 10 minutes. And I spent another 10 minutes going only over the essay. Make sure that the essay makes sense, you're avoiding repetition, and the ideas and the structure is clear and straight to the point. So that's everything from exam revision. I want to wish everyone buena suerte en el examen. Nothing to worry about. The exam will not be that difficult. Buena suerte a todos y hasta la próxima. Adiós a todos desde examrevision.ie.